So today I thought I would finally share the story of why I got a tattoo of the woods. It's also my 400th day of no booze, and the stories are kind of connected, so I thought that I would do that. So I'm sitting in the dark in my Zen den by myself at the house. No better time. So I'll tell you the story instead of writing it, which means more rambling, but sit tight and I'll try to make it short and sweet. So I got a tattoo of the woods as a cover up of my terrible two tattoos, based on drunken decisions. And I chose the woods because growing up, my parents were divorced. And when I used to stay with my dad, he would take us to the woods, my sister and I, in an attempt, I think, to tire us out. Um, but we would walk in the woods and splash in the streams and build lean-tos and race juice boxes, and he would teach us lessons about direction that never stuck. And I just think we really bonded in nature. He also shut us out in the woods during the winter to shovel ponds and play ice hockey. And the woods, I've always just felt like bring me closer to my dad now that I've lost him. And so I've tried to pass that tradition on to my boys and take my boys into the woods, and teach them the same things and share that time with them in like solitude. And I also go into the woods with my dog or by myself. I'm not a very religious person. Anyone that knows me, I'm not really Jesus-y. I tend to think that if you can't see something, then it's not real. And I also have this personality where I think that only I can fix myself and I don't need anyone else. And so the woods are like my church. I go there when I need to think, when I need to feel, hopefully, my dad's presence, when I need to get things off my chest, and when I need to clear my mind, which is a lot. So, that's why I got the tattoo of the woods. And I told the boys the story about my dad, because I don't tell many stories about my dad because I have a hard time explaining how he died. And so I don't tell as many stories as I should, but I told them that story, and then I told them the connection of why I take them to the woods. And so they understood the tattoo and said it was beautiful and they loved it. And so that was a success. So I got the tattoo for my year anniversary of giving up alcohol. And it actually came halfway between a year and 400 days. So I gave that gift to myself. And I've promised to talk about why I gave up drinking. And it's because drinking was fun until it was not fun. And I became a person that I despised every day. My dad died of suicide when I was 27, and he was an alcoholic for most of my life. And I think it also contributed to his suicide because when he stopped drinking, he had mental health to deal with that he masked with alcohol, which I think I did for a long time. And in the note that he left one line that out of like 5 pages that said something to the effect of that he hopes that I don't turn out like him because he can see it happening. And out of a 5-page letter, to have those 2 lines has really ruined me over time. And I will never forget those words or that thought he had when he wrote that right before he killed himself. I drank his death away for 15 years of my life, saying I was not going to be like him. I could be better than him, but I realized at some point I had turned into him. And then I lost my best friend to complications of cirrhosis a couple of years ago. and she was my best friend, my partner in crime in Washington, D.C. when I lived there for 8 years. And in one of her mean stages, she said to me, the only reason you're not as bad as me and didn't have to go to rehab, and aren't dead is because you had 2 kids, so you had 2 self-induced rehabs. And I was angry with her for saying that, but I think it might be valid. I promised to give up alcohol after her death, but instead it sent me on a 2-year bender. Because part of it was that she was single and didn't have any kids. And so I felt like if there was a higher power, that they chose Caitlin instead of me because I have kids, and that she took one for the team and I was left alive because I have some sort of purpose. And I think that to this day, and that also really kills me. So we had tried to give up drinking together 2 weeks before she died, and then she died, and then I spoke at her funeral. And I felt like I could have been speaking about myself to people that I love, to faces that were going to miss me for the rest of their lives. And I started writing letters to my sons because every night that I drank, and I drank more, or I drank during different times of the day, or I just felt numb, and I hated myself, and I hated who I had become, I wrote letters to my sons to tell them about the real me and who I wanted them to remember, not just the crazy stories that I couldn't control that other people would tell them, but about my likes and my dislikes and all of the stories I had to share with them, but mostly the reasons that I loved them in different stages and how they were changing, so that in case one night I fell asleep and didn't wake up, they would at least have a box of letters that I never got when my dad died. And at least if they were going to be angry with me for choosing alcohol over them, they would know that I loved them, and that they'd have something from me explaining myself, and that they would know that how much I love them, and not just that I don't want them to turn into me. And I didn't want them to turn into me. And so I had to stop the pattern there. And so one day I had some drinks in the afternoon after work, and I don't know why, but when I finished the last one, I knew it was the last one. And I've never looked back. And it's 400 days today. And day 1 was terrible, and day 2 was terrible, and day 3 was the worst. And then it got easier over time, and then I gained 15 pounds eating chocolate, which makes up for the sugar that you lose with booze, to the point where like I would binge eat chocolate and like in my half sleep, and I would wake up covered in chocolate, not only on my mouth and clothes, but my bed sheets. And when you have to wash your bed sheets for like 3 times a week because you have a chocolate addiction, that's like so shameful. Like I can't even tell if that's more shameful than having like the thought of you drinking yourself to death. But I figured, chocolate was a trade-off. So that's when I gave up booze, on the 4th of February, and I'm a happier person. I know that I am present for my kids. I know that I live up to my potential of who I want to be. I know that I don't hurt people anymore or scare them. My poor mother. And I know that I am destined for better things, and I was fighting myself for decades, and now that can be over. And some people say that I am a softer person, which, let's not get crazy. Like, I don't want to go that far. Like, maybe I'm a little bit less like me all the time, but I'm still about a level 9 every day, with or without alcohol. I'm still fun. I still like to go out. Um, I'm just not self-destructive, and I'm just not ashamed or guilt-ridden or filled with anxiety every day. And for once in my life, I chose me and I succeeded. And so that's why I gave up booze. That's why I gave up that's why I gave up a lot of things I was holding on for 20 years. And that's why I am a better, happier person. And so that's my story. And I know that telling this resonates with more of you than I ever realized, from the messages and the encouragement and the gifts and the words that I've received that gave me strength. So I want to say thank you, because I couldn't have done it myself, but I'm proud that I did. But I didn't do it alone. So there you go. Day 400 and why I got a tattoo.